It's still dark outside, the kind of quiet that feels almost heavy. You sit at the edge of the bed, not really ready to stand, not really ready to lie down again. The phone screen glows for a moment. Messages, demands, reminders of things waiting for you. Another day beginning before your heart has even caught up with yesterday. And for a few seconds, you just breathe. Not because you feel calm, but because you don't know what else to do. Have you ever noticed how the morning carries a strange weight? Before the noise starts, before anyone asks anything of you, there is that fragile space where your thoughts feel louder than the world. Sometimes they are tired thoughts. Thoughts that come from long nights of carrying things you never say out loud. The small disappointments. The silent compromises. The moments where you smiled even when something inside you felt quietly broken. Maybe you know this feeling. Waking up already exhausted, not physically, but somewhere deeper, as if life keeps moving, and you keep moving with it. Yet a part of you wonders when you last moved with intention, when you last felt grounded before the rush began, when you last belonged to yourself, even for a moment. There is a kind of loneliness that appears in the early morning, not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of always holding yourself together for everyone else. You answer messages, you prepare for the day, you play your role, and yet there is a question that lingers quietly beneath the surface. How long can someone endure without truly checking in with their own soul? I am not here to give you answers too quickly. Not today. Because mornings are delicate. They do not ask for loud motivation or grand promises. They ask for honesty, the simple courage to pause before the world rushes in, to notice what you are carrying, to admit what hurts, to acknowledge the fatigue you hide behind discipline and routine. And perhaps, just perhaps, there is power in that pause. Not in changing everything overnight, but in looking inward before you step outward. In allowing yourself a few minutes where the world does not decide who you must be. A quiet moment where reflection is not a luxury but a gentle act of survival. What if the first victory of the day is not productivity, but awareness? What if strength begins not with action, but with stillness? These are not lessons yet, only questions. Questions that sit beside you in the early light, waiting patiently. Asking nothing but your presence. If you have felt tired, misunderstood, or worn thin by silent battles, know this. You are not weak for feeling that weight. You are human. And sometimes the most powerful beginning is simply noticing where you are, without judgment, without rushing to fix yourself. So for now, stay here a little longer. In this quiet space between night and morning, let the noise wait. Let the world wait. Because in the next part, we will slowly explore what it means to meet the day with a different kind of mind. One that does not fight the morning, but learns to begin within it. When someone hurts us, the first reaction often comes before thought, a tightening in the chest, a quiet disbelief, sometimes anger, sometimes silence. We replay the moment again and again, searching for the exact second where things went wrong, wondering what we should have said differently. The mind tries to turn pain into explanation, as if understanding the event perfectly could erase the feeling itself. But human beings rarely act from clear intention alone. Most actions come from unseen places, habits formed long ago, fears no one talks about, expectations carried from their own struggles. When someone speaks sharply, ignores us, or misunderstands us, it often says more about the world they are living inside than the person standing in front of them. This does not mean their behavior is harmless. It means the meaning we attach to it deserves careful attention. Think about a simple moment at home. A family member speaks impatiently after a long day. The words feel unfair, maybe even cold. In that instant, it is easy to believe we are being disrespected because we are not valued. Yet if we step back, we may see exhaustion behind the tone, stress that started long before the conversation began. Their reaction becomes less a judgment about us and more a reflection of what they are carrying within themselves. The pain we feel is real, but the conclusion we draw about our worth may not be. The same happens with friends. A message goes unanswered. Plans are canceled without much explanation. The mind quietly asks, "Am I not important enough?" But people disappear into their own storms more often than we realize. Some struggle with anxiety. Some feel overwhelmed by responsibilities they cannot explain. Some simply do not know how to show care in the way we expect. Their distance may come from limitation, not rejection. And in society, the pattern grows even larger. Strangers judge quickly. People speak with certainty about lives they do not understand. Online or in daily life, harsh opinions spread easily because they cost nothing to give. When someone criticizes or dismisses us, we instinctively absorb the words as truth. Yet what we receive is often just a projection, their beliefs, fears, or frustrations taking shape through language. The act tells us something about their perspective, not about our value. The Stoic way of looking at this is quiet and practical. It reminds us that every person moves according to their own understanding of the world at that moment. People do what seems reasonable to them, even when it appears irrational to us. They act from what they know, from what they fear, from what they have not yet learned to see. When we realize this, a small space opens between their action and our identity. The wound may still exist, but it no longer defines who we are. This does not ask us to excuse everything. It does not tell us to accept mistreatment without boundaries. Rather, it invites us to separate two things that often become tangled together: what others do and what we choose to believe about ourselves because of it. Their words may come from impatience, insecurity, or misunderstanding, but our worth does not rise or fall inside their perception. Value is not handed to us by approval, nor taken away by criticism. Still, knowing this in the mind is different from feeling it in the heart. Even when we understand that someone's harshness belongs to them, the sting remains. We remember the tone of voice, the expression, the silence after the conversation ends. The body holds on to moments the intellect has already forgiven, and that is part of being human. Reason can guide us, but it does not instantly erase emotion. Perhaps the deeper practice is learning to witness our reactions without adding new stories to them, to notice hurt without turning it into self-blame, to allow disappointment without concluding that we are somehow not enough. Slowly, we begin to see that pain often grows not only from what happened, but from the meaning we build around it. And yet, even when we understand that others act from their own perception, even when we remind ourselves that their behavior is not a measure of our value. A quiet ache can still remain, which leads us gently to the next question, one that many people avoid but quietly carry within them. If we know all of this, then why do we still hurt? It is late now. The noise of the day has settled, but the feeling has not. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, and the words someone said hours ago return with a strange clarity. During the day, you were composed. You answered politely. You moved on. But in the quiet of night, the wound opens again. Why does it hurt so much? Not only because of what was said, not only because of what happened. The pain reaches deeper than the event itself. It touches something we were holding long before that moment arrived. We suffer when expectation meets reality and loses. Somewhere inside, often without admitting it, we expect to be understood, especially by those close to us. We expect fairness from family, loyalty from friends, respect from colleagues, recognition from the world. These expectations are rarely spoken aloud, yet they quietly shape how we interpret every interaction. When someone fails to meet them, it feels like betrayal, even if they never promised what we hoped for. Expectation creates a silent contract in the mind, and when the other person does not sign it, we feel deceived. There is also attachment, not only attachment to people, but to images. The image of being appreciated, the image of being important, the image of being right. When someone criticizes us or overlooks us, it is not just the comment that stings. It threatens the image we have built about ourselves, and we cling to that image because it gives us stability. Without it, we feel exposed. Attachment is subtle. It disguises itself as love, as ambition, as self-respect. But beneath it lies a quiet demand. This must not be taken away from me. And then there is the longing to be acknowledged. This one is delicate. From childhood, we learn that approval feels safe. A smile from a parent, praise from a teacher, acceptance from friends. These moments teach us that being seen equals being valued. So when someone dismisses us, ignores our effort, or questions our character, it does not just feel unpleasant. It feels like erasure, as if our existence has been reduced. In those moments, emotion rises quickly. Anger, sadness, shame. The body reacts before the mind can organize itself. And here is where many misunderstand the Stoic spirit. It is not a denial of emotion. It is not a cold rejection of feeling. Emotion is natural, immediate, honest. To feel hurt when hurtful things happen is part of being alive. The difference lies elsewhere. Stoic thinking does not silence emotion. It simply refuses to let emotion become the ruler. Feeling anger does not require acting in anger. Feeling sadness does not require building an identity around sadness. The emotion arrives, but it is not given the authority to decide who we are or what we must do next. This space, small but powerful, changes everything. When we are hurt, the first wave is often pure. A natural reaction to something unexpected. The suffering deepens in the second wave. The stories begin. They shouldn't have done that. I deserve better. This always happens to me. The mind repeats and enlarges the event. The pain grows not from the original wound, but from the meaning we attach to it. We replay conversations in our head, editing them, defending ourselves in imaginary arguments. Each repetition strengthens the emotional charge. Slowly, We are no longer responding to what happened. We are responding to our own interpretation of it. And interpretation is shaped by expectation, by attachment, by the need to be confirmed as worthy. When someone's behavior clashes with these inner demands, the pain feels personal, deeply personal. Yet if we look carefully, we may see that what truly hurts is not their action alone, but the collapse of what we hoped they would provide. Security, recognition, validation. Without realizing it, we often hand these responsibilities to others. We allow their reactions to determine our inner weather. A compliment brightens the sky. A criticism darkens it. And so we live in a climate controlled by external voices. It is not weakness. It is habit, a very human habit. But when we begin to see this clearly, something softens. The pain does not disappear, but it becomes understandable. We see that suffering grows where expectation tightens, where attachment refuses to loosen, where the need for approval becomes intertwined with identity. And perhaps in this late hour, the most honest question is not why they hurt us, but why we allowed their action to define our sense of self. There is no condemnation in this question, only curiosity. A quiet invitation to look inward without defense, without blame. Because before we can practice anything, before we can change our response, we must first sit with this truth in silence. And in that silence, something begins to shift. Morning arrives again, quieter than before. Not because the world has changed, but because something in the way we look at it begins to slow down. Practice does not start with dramatic decisions. It begins in small, ordinary moments, the kinds of moments that used to pass unnoticed. Imagine this. Someone speaks to you with a tone that feels sharp. In the past, you might have carried that moment for hours, replaying it, searching for meaning. But now, there is a small pause. You notice your reaction rising, but you do not rush to follow it. You recognize that the first thing you can truly guide is not their tone, but your own attention. The moment becomes less about changing the other person and more about choosing where your mind rests. This is not indifference. It is clarity. Another day, a friend forgets something important to you. The disappointment appears quietly. Instead of immediately assuming carelessness or rejection, you allow space for uncertainty. You remember that people move according to what is visible to them in that moment. Their action belongs to their world. Your response belongs to yours. The practice here is subtle, separating what is happening from the story forming inside you. One exists outside, the other can be shaped from within. There is also the practice of returning to what is within reach. Picture a crowded workplace where opinions move quickly and misunderstandings happen easily. A conversation leaves you feeling unseen. The instinct might be to correct everyone, to explain yourself until no doubt remains. Yet sometimes the calmer path is different. You focus on your intention, your conduct, the steadiness of your own presence. You cannot arrange how others think, but you can decide whether your inner balance depends on their agreement. The center shifts inward, quietly, almost unnoticed. In family life, this practice becomes even more gentle. Someone close to you reacts emotionally, and the atmosphere grows heavy. Before, you might have tried to fix the feeling immediately, to change their mood so that you could feel at ease again. Now, you sit with the moment without rushing. You listen. You speak simply. You allow their emotion to exist without making it your responsibility to control it. In doing so, you protect a quiet space inside yourself. Not distance, but calm participation. There is another principle that grows slowly through repeated experience. Understanding the difference between influence and control. You can influence through kindness, patience, and honesty. But control belongs only to your own choices. When someone misunderstands you, you can clarify once, maybe twice, with sincerity. After that, peace comes from letting the rest unfold as it will. The inner effort turns away from forcing outcomes and toward maintaining integrity in action. Even small daily inconveniences become part of practice. A delayed plan, an unexpected comment, a message that arrives late. These moments used to feel like interruptions. Now they become reminders, a brief breath, a quiet question. What is truly mine to guide here? Often the answer is simple. My judgment, my pace, my tone, my next step. Nothing more is needed. And gradually you begin to notice something interesting. The world does not become easier, but your relationship with it softens. Hurtful moments still occur. Emotions still rise. Yet they pass through you more cleanly without becoming heavy stories that stay for days. The mind learns to return home faster. This is not perfection. Some days the old reactions return strongly. Some moments still catch you unprepared. But even then, the practice remains gentle. You do not fight yourself for feeling human. You simply return again to steadiness, as one returns to a familiar path after briefly wandering. What matters most is not controlling the behavior of others. People will continue to act according to their own understanding. Some will be thoughtful, some will be careless, some will never fully see you. The calmer life grows when your inner balance no longer depends on changing them. Control moves inward, becoming quieter and more reliable. And with time, a different kind of strength appears. Not rigid, not defensive, just stable. You begin to trust that whatever comes, you can meet it without losing yourself in it. The day continues. Conversations rise and fall. Moments of ease and moments of discomfort pass side by side. But underneath, there is a quiet steadiness, a sense that your peace does not need to fight for space anymore. And as the evening settles, you may notice something small but real. The weight you once carried feels lighter, not because life stopped being complex, but because you learned to walk without holding everything so tightly. There comes a moment in life when the idea of winning begins to feel different, not because we lose ambition, and not because we stop caring, but because we start to see the cost hidden behind every invisible competition. We spend years trying to prove something, that we are right, that we are strong, that we deserve our place. And for a while, those victories feel satisfying. The argument won, the recognition gained, the silent comparison where we come out ahead. Yet strangely, the feeling fades quickly, leaving behind a familiar emptiness. Maturity brings a quieter question. What exactly was won? Many people live as if life is a constant contest. At work, they compete for status. In relationships, they compete to be understood first. Even in small conversations, there is a subtle desire to come out superior, to have the last word, to be acknowledged as correct. Winning becomes a habit so natural that we rarely notice it shaping our thoughts. But the mind that always seeks victory rarely rests. It stays alert, defensive, prepared for the next challenge. The Stoic path looks at this and gently steps aside. It does not ask us to lose. It simply asks whether the contest itself is necessary, because every time we try to defeat another person, we tie our peace to their response. If they resist, we tense. If they disagree, we feel threatened. If they succeed, we feel diminished. Victory becomes fragile, dependent on something outside ourselves. There is another way of seeing. Imagine two people in an argument. One insists on being right, carefully building each point, waiting for the moment the other finally gives in. The tension grows heavier with every sentence. The other listens, speaks calmly, and stops when their part is clear. They do not force agreement. They do not chase validation. From the outside, it may look like they surrendered something, but inwardly, they walked away with their balance intact. The first person may win the discussion. The second person keeps their peace. The difference is subtle but profound. Winning against someone else creates a momentary elevation. The ego feels larger, but maintaining inner calm creates space. Space to breathe, to think clearly, to remain unchanged by passing opinions. One victory depends on comparison. The other depends on freedom from comparison. This does not mean avoiding excellence or refusing effort. A Stoic does not abandon goals or ambition. The shift lies in motive. Actions are guided by values, not by the need to stand above someone else. You can work hard without turning life into a contest. You can speak truth without needing applause. You can walk away from an argument not because you are weak, but because your peace matters more than being declared right. There is a quiet strength in no longer needing to dominate situations. You begin to notice how much energy is saved when the mind stops measuring itself against every voice, every opinion, every criticism. The world continues as it always has, people competing, comparing, proving, but inside something softens. The pressure to constantly defend yourself fades, and with that fading comes a new kind of freedom. Freedom is not always loud. Sometimes it feels like silence after a long conversation. Sometimes it feels like choosing not to respond immediately. Sometimes it is the gentle realization that someone can misunderstand you, and life still moves peacefully forward. The need to be seen in a certain way loosens its grip. You no longer chase victory because you no longer feel threatened by losing. This freedom is not indifference. It is clarity about what truly belongs to you. Your thoughts, your choices, your direction. The rest moves like weather, changing, temporary, beyond command. As years pass, many realize that the deepest battles were never with other people. They were with pride, with fear, with the restless desire to be affirmed. And when these inner struggles begin to quiet, the outside world appears less hostile. Not because people changed, but because the need to fight them has faded. There is a calm dignity in walking forward without carrying the weight of proving yourself. You begin to leave conversations lighter. You notice beauty in simple moments again. A slow morning, a quiet road, the feeling of breathing without urgency. Life stops being an arena and becomes a journey, and perhaps that is why the Stoic does not need to win against anyone, because the greatest victory is invisible. It is the ability to move through the world without losing yourself in it. At the end of the day, when the noise settles and the sky begins to dim, You may find yourself walking a long path alone. Not lonely, just unburdened. The road stretches ahead, calm and open. The light falls softly across it, and for the first time, there is no need to hurry, no one to outrun. Only the quiet freedom of continuing forward, leaving behind what no longer needs to be carried. The night grows quieter now, not empty, just softer. Somewhere a light is still on, a window half open, a person sitting alone with thoughts that no one else can see. The world continues to move, but here everything slows down. There was never a promise that life would be gentle. People arrive, people leave, words heal, words wound. Days rise and fall without asking whether we are ready. And yet, through all of it, there is something steady that waits beneath the surface, a quiet place that does not rush to react. Perhaps this is what the Stoic spirit really feels like. Not an idea, not a rule, just a way of standing inside one's own life. You wake up. The morning asks nothing special of you. You carry your responsibilities, your memories, your small disappointments. Sometimes you feel strong, sometimes you don't, but gradually. You learn that strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It appears in simple moments, in a breath taken before speaking, in a pause before judging, in the choice to remain calm when the world feels impatient. Life keeps offering situations that cannot be shaped the way we want. A conversation that does not go as planned. A relationship that changes quietly. A hope that fades without explanation. And slowly, without forcing anything, you begin to see that peace does not come from arranging every outcome. It comes from the way you meet what arrives. The mind once chased certainty. It wanted guarantees, recognition, clear answers. But over time, another understanding appears. Nothing stays fixed. Not praise, not criticism, not even pain. Everything moves. Everything passes through. And so, you sit with things differently. You stop asking life to be fair in every moment. You stop asking others to carry the weight of your inner balance. You watch emotions come and go like weather. Some days heavy, some days light, none of them permanent. There is no need to push feelings away. They speak, and then they fade. You listen without becoming them. The world may still misunderstand you. People may still act from places you cannot see, but something inside no longer rushes to defend itself. There is a quiet acceptance, not resignation but calm awareness, that each person walks with their own burdens, and you walk with yours. Time passes. You notice small things again, the sound of footsteps, the pause between words, the way evening light changes the color of a room. The moments that used to be filled with restlessness begin to feel spacious. Nothing extraordinary has happened, yet everything feels slightly lighter. The Stoic path is not a dramatic transformation. It is a slow return, a return to what is already here. The steady breath, the observing mind, the space between feeling and action. No applause follows this change. No one may even notice. But inside, there is less struggle. You realize that peace was never somewhere else. It was hidden beneath the noise all along. And maybe that is why the journey feels quiet at the end. Not because all questions are answered, but because the need for answers has softened. Life remains uncertain. The future remains unknown. But the heart learns how to stand gently within that uncertainty. The silence grows deeper now. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase for this moment. only the feeling of being here. Exactly as you are, while the world continues to turn. Somewhere in the distance, a road stretches into darkness. Not frightening, just open, waiting without urgency. And you understand quietly that walking forward does not always require certainty. Sometimes it only requires presence. The night breathes. The thoughts settle. The story does not end, it simply becomes still. And in that stillness, one simple truth remains. You were never fighting the world, only the noise inside you.